Is there life after driving? Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of You and Me and Multiple Sclerosis. My name is Pam, and I've been living with MS for over 37 years, and it's been over 15 years since I've been behind the wheel of a car. Does that mean my life is over? I know that in the United States and much of the rest of the world, if you don't drive, you don't feel like you're a full participant in society. But is that really necessarily the case? Recently, I was talking to a friend who was telling me about someone she knew who had multiple sclerosis, and he's in his 50s. It's getting to the point where he really probably shouldn't be driving anymore, but he refuses to give it up because he just doesn't want to relinquish the benefits that driving gives him. And I feel for him, I do, because the same thing happened for me. I said I hadn't been driving for over 15 years, but I will tell you that that was entirely my decision. No doctor has ever told me that I couldn't drive, but I chose not to. I chose to hand my keys over, despite the fact that driving does do some wonderful things for you. It gave me a lot of freedom, gave me independence. I could come and go as I pleased, go where I wanted, and take whatever route I wanted to get there, do my errands in whatever order I wanted, spend as long as I wanted at any given place, or even spontaneously decide to do something different from what I had initially planned. So independence, that was important to me. Convenience was another thing that was important to me. To be able to just run to the store and get something if I needed it, or to be able to transport items that I had purchased for gifts that I didn't really want my husband to know. It was like a secret and a surprise for Christmas or whatever, not to have to wonder how I was going to make that happen. That was very hard to give up. And then finally, helping others was a big thing for me when I was driving. I was able to give people rides. I can't tell you how many times I jump-started other people's cars that I came upon along the road. I had jumper cables in the trunk so that I could always help somebody jump-start their car. And I did that a number of times. And I enjoyed being able to use my car to transport people or things just to be helpful. And I had to give all that up. So does that mean that a big part of my life was just over and gone? Well, okay, it took maybe a little bit of rethinking and some creativity, but also life's changed in such a way that things are easier even without driving a car. Well, first I want to talk about why I gave it up. Since I told you that no doctor had said that I had to give up driving, why would I voluntarily give it up? For one thing, I know that my reaction time is not what it used to be. MS does that to you, that your reactions are strange. In some ways, they're kind of hyper, and in some ways, they're kind of delayed. And almost always, it's the wrong thing, right? If you would like a hyper reaction, you would like it when seconds count. But of course, MS doesn't cooperate nicely like that. You end up with your reaction time being ridiculously fast when you really should have taken a few extra seconds to think about what you were doing. And conversely, when you want to react quickly, you sort of freeze. It's just a weird thing. I don't know. But be that as it may, I knew that my reaction time just wasn't what it needed to be a good, safe driver. Secondly, I know that I was not able to judge distances very well. And that was partly eyesight, because as I've told you, I had a number of bouts of optic neuritis, and it did take a toll on my eyesight. But there's also been studies that have, believe it or not, have been looking at whether men and women have different abilities when it comes to judging distances. And study after study has shown that women cannot judge distances as well as men can. And if you don't believe me, I'm putting a citation in the description box so you can take a look at one of many studies on this very topic. Well, there was that. I knew that was a problem. But even beyond that, I just got to where my eyes were doing weird things. I was seeing things that weren't there, and I wasn't seeing things that were there. Or I was totally misinterpreting what I was seeing. I remember distinctly one time, fortunately driving through a neighborhood, so I was going reasonably slowly, but I came to an intersection and I had the right of way. I thought this was a brown house that was on the corner, and it turned out to be a sanitation truck, and it thought it had the right of way. So that almost became a problem. That was a real wake-up call for me. But I had other experiences similar to that. When I tried to pass, I would look in my rearview mirror before I put on my signal to go into the passing lane. I remember more than one occasion I would start to do that only to hear a horn blaring and realizing, looking in my mirror again, here's the car right there. Now, there's no way that could have just happened, but that was another near accident, and thankfully it didn't happen. But I'd gotten to the point where I just was not willing to continue on until something happened, until I got into some kind of accident, or heaven forbid, hit somebody on a bicycle, hit a kid crossing a street. I just didn't want to go there. So I gave it up voluntarily. And then one last one is that I just kind of got to feel after a while like the car was just too much horsepower for me. As long as I was able to keep the speeds down pretty low, I was okay. And my route to work, I planned out a route that was all on city streets or back roads, and that was really easy to do. But then we moved, for one thing, and then there was also some road construction and some detours and a whole bunch of other factors that conspired to make it essential for me to make my 20-minute commute to work largely on the highway. And that's when I really started to get nervous, because I was going at highway speeds and there were trucks and there were lots of cars and people were passing and changing lanes and doing a lot of stuff very quickly without a lot of time to think about what you were doing. And I found myself just getting more and more anxious every day going to work. I dreaded it more and more because that highway driving was just, I was overdriving my abilities, I guess you might want to say. It's kind of like overdriving your headlights. I was overdriving my comfort level constantly, and I have a feeling that cortisol spike was probably not that great for my health either. I was more than happy to give that up. I started asking my husband to take me into work, first just one day a week, then a few days a week, and the next thing you know, I just kind of wasn't wanting to do it anymore. And I didn't have the weather or any other excuse for it. I just didn't like the anxiety of having to deal with all the traffic on the highway. But this idea kind of came to me because of a friend of mine, Mona. I have had her on a number of the videos that I've made. She recently was able to get a wheelchair through Medicare, but the thing, she calls it the Beast, it's very big and heavy, and the motor on it is very powerful. And I'll link her blog in the description below. You need to read it. She had some rather catastrophic experiences using that wheelchair around the house. And she'd really, really prefer not to have something that's quite so powerful, because it's more than she can really handle. So I relate to that entirely. That's exactly how I ended up feeling about my car. No, it hasn't really been the end of the world. There are several changes that I have made in my life that have allowed me to continue on doing pretty much what I need to get done, and maybe in some ways even better than before when I had a car. The first thing is that in the past, my husband and I often would like to have property that was outside of town. We like the countryside a lot. But when you have MS and you don't drive, that really doesn't have the same allure that it once had. And so we made the decision to have our residence in town. And while I may not walk all over the place, at least I know I'm close in, and if I need someone to come and help or whatever, I'm not out of the way. It's not a far drive for anyone to come to my house to either visit or to help me with something. Yeah, I miss living in the country, but I think that the trade-off has been worth it. But probably the biggest change really has been the internet, which wasn't a thing back in the days when I was driving. It wasn't really much of a thing anyway, by the time that I gave up driving. But online stores have really changed the game for me when it comes to just getting things done. And in many ways, it's more convenient than what I had before. Because not only can I buy things in secret if I need to, so if I'm trying to surprise my husband for Christmas, I can get him something online. He doesn't even have to know. And it comes right to my front door and delivered in a box that's not declaring the contents. So it's easy for me to put it aside until his birthday or Christmas or whatever I'm trying to surprise him with. I've bought other items too that in the past I would have had to figure out how to transport from the store to my house and then carry them inside. Now they just come right to my door. And I can't say enough about how much that has changed my life. And then finally, I've also said this 100 times. The friendships that I have made it so much easier for me not to worry about not having access to a car to drive. My friends don't wait for me to ask them for a ride. They just ask me, do you need a ride, or when do you want me to pick you up? Even better. I never really feel like I'm a burden because I need a ride to come along. They want me along. So it hasn't really been a problem at all. In fact, I get more invitations to do things than I really have energy to do. So in summary, do I still have independence? Well, I would say yes, I do. In the things that are really important to me, I still have a great degree of independence. The computer and the internet have made things so much easier for me. As you can see right now with this video, I can have an independent life and still keep in touch with people and learn new things. Being without a car doesn't really change any of that. It doesn't essentially change my ability to accomplish the things that I think are important. Convenience, we've already talked about. It might have been convenient in some ways to have access to a car, but I haven't really lost all that much by not having that. And then finally, helping other people. I can still do that. I may not be able to help people in the ways that I was helping them before, but I can sure help people. I just do it in other ways, with either my time, my talents, my friendship. I may not be able to jumpstart anybody anymore. Helping other people is still important, but the way I do it is just different, and that's okay. And then one last bonus that I will mention about not really having a car that I'm driving all the time is that I am saving a lot of money in aggravation, right? I'm not paying those high gas prices at the pump anymore. And I'm not having to pay for car maintenance, and I'm not even really having to pay for car insurance. Though I still own my car, you know that. I kept my antique classic convertible, and I've got antique plates on it, and I pay a certain insurance because of that, which is actually less than I'd be paying if it was a daily driver kind of car. So I've saved an awful lot of money there. But the other thing that I save money on is that I'm probably the last person in the whole world to get a cell phone because I just don't need one. I'm always with somebody, right? If I don't drive, I'm not alone. I'm not really on my own, except in the house where we have a landline. And if I'm out someplace, I'm with somebody and they have a phone. So there's no reason for me to have a cell phone. So I save money on that. I don't have to pay cell phone bills every month. All in all, it hasn't really been that bad of a thing for me to give up driving. I am just grateful that I'm the one who made the decision. I think that makes all the difference. When something is taken away from us, it feels much worse than if we voluntarily give it up. So I guess that's my advice to you. If there's something that you know in your heart of hearts that you should give up doing, give it up yourself. Don't wait for somebody else to tell you that you need to or that you should or that you have to. You'll just feel better about the whole experience. Well, that's all I have for you today. Take care, and I'll see you again in my next video.